Hello, and welcome to the Broke PhD podcast, where we build relationships or kindle emotions with every episode. I'm your host, Dr. G. This episode is part 2 of a 2-part segment. So if you have not done so already, please go check out episode 20, which is part 1 of the 2-part segment of a conversation with Dr. Michelle Gibbs. On this episode, Dr. Michelle Gibbs shares about being a Black immigrant woman navigating the world of academia. Additionally, we talk about the importance of having or building your own support system to aid you as you navigate your academic or personal life. And Dr. Gibbs shares some key takeaways that will hopefully aid you as you navigate along your own journey. And so I want to continue our conversation. And being that we are both Black women who have navigated education and navigating the world, I just want to have a conversation about that. And if you want to share anything, any experiences, any specificities to being a Black woman in education and being a Black mom and being a Black woman navigating the professional world, can you please talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, how much time have we got?
I know. And I was like, we
Um,
can't compress it all into like 5 minutes. I know this is a very, like, there's a lot we could talk about.
this is a lot we can talk
I guess
about.
the tip of the
So,
iceberg.
yes, I think that it is really important for us as Black women in academia or just in society in general to really represent each other, represent ourselves, carry ourselves with grace, represent ourselves in a way that encourages others who look like us. Because my thing is that we can't become what we cannot see.
Mm,
And if we don't see each other represented out there, represented in higher positions, represented in academia, represented at a certain level, educational level, then how can we set the pace and the tone and really encourage others to do the same? It's really important for me as a Black woman to do that, not just for society, but for my kids.
mm,
For my kids to see that, because we've got Black sons
mm.
and we all know there's so much stereotypes that go with that. And and I always say to my sons, like, when you look at someone, don't look at the exterior only. Like, you need to get to know people before you cast judgment, before you make any draw any conclusions
Mhm.
as to what they're capable of, because people may look at me and think, well, who are you and what have you done? And then when they get to know me and they get to realize what I have done, it's like, oh, wow. No, it's not a oh, wow. It's you've obviously made some judgments before you've got to know me. So let's not do that, and let us encourage our kids as well not to do that, because it starts from there. And that's what I say to our sons all the time. First of all, no one can stop you from achieving anything that you are destined to achieve. That's the first thing. The sky is the limit. You do you, and just go after the goals you want to go after. No one can stop you from doing that. I have shown them, and one of the things that has been my I guess my motivation to continue to pursue my goals is to show them that they can pursue their goals. They can do hard things. It doesn't matter the color of their skin. It doesn't matter how many other people look like them. They can pursue their goals. And that's exactly what I've done. And it's exactly what I'm teaching them to do. And I guess, from the perspective of being one of the only Black people in my department. There are not that many of us. That has always been a thing that I guess more inspired me than demotivated me. So for me, it's always been, okay, so hasn't been done before, I'll do it. Or hasn't been achieved, I can show you that it's possible to achieve. And not in a way that is, look at me, I'm all that. Not in that way, but more in a way that, I'm not going to let this be a barrier to my own success. I'm going to take ownership of that. And I'm going to navigate these systems that perhaps are not in my favor to my own advantage. And so that's what I've done.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And having the representation is something that is so important. And so I
Yeah.
love that you emphasize that you were motivated if there wasn't anybody that looked like you, that you want to be that representation for those that are coming after you. And something that I find interesting too is because obviously well, for those that don't know, we are also in two different countries, that you are in the UK and I'm in the US. And the fact that we are two Black women in two different parts of the world who have similar thoughts on things speaks volumes for the world out there and for what globally the perspectives of things are. And yes, having that representation and being that representation, that if there's not many in your department that look like you are becoming that representation, as you
Yeah.
said, that if someone hasn't done it before, that you do it and you did
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
you are showing those exemplars and being those examples. And I love that so much.
I think one of the other things for me as well is, I am not just a Black woman in academia, but
Mhm.
I am also, I wasn't born in this country.
Mm,
And so for me, it's also about being an immigrant as well. There's
mm,
so many of us that are navigating that world
mhm,
in academia, in healthcare, in whatever professions we're in, and that comes with its challenges as well.
mhm,
That comes with its challenges as well. People make so many assumptions sometimes about your abilities, and you feel like you've got to prove yourself. Well, I think again, being that representation, not just from the perspective of being Black, but also as a Black immigrant, I think is
mhm,
really, really, really important as well.
And that's a good point too, is that you are walking in a space that sometimes those around you may not have understanding or may not want to have understanding, or like you said, are coming with their own preset notions and judgments. And
Yeah.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a
It's a lot.
lot.
It's a lot. But I think it's really important, I think, as well, that PhD supervisors are advocates and allies for their Black, potentially immigrant or not students. I really am so grateful for the PhD supervisors that I had, because I feel like that's exactly what I had. I had that allyship, I had that advocacy from them to be, to be able to navigate my journey in a way that wasn't a barrier for me. It wasn't a factor to my success. It wasn't a determinant of my success. And I think some credit goes to, supervisors who don't look like me, but are very, very supportive and very much advocates for me when I'm, in rooms and in spaces where I am not present. So that was really important for me as well.
Yeah, that's a big thing to emphasize too, is that the support system of those around you, whether you're navigating an educational program or in your professional life, if you have mentors
Yeah.
or managers or whatever the title might be, being able to have individuals that will still advocate for you and stand up for you, even when you're not present,
Yeah.
makes a difference. Because
Yes.
people can say a lot to your face and say that they support X, Y, and Z, but it's what individuals do when you're not in the room or when others who are in
Mhm.
similar communities as you or similar backgrounds as you aren't in the room, that speaks
Mhm.
volumes and really kind of shows the true colors of individuals.
Yes, very much
So,
so.
yeah, that's important to emphasize that too, is for those listeners out there, just try as much as possible. And obviously, you can't vet everybody, that there may be
Yeah.
people that smile in your face and stab you in the back. That's a thing that happens, and hopefully you never have to experience that. But your support system makes a difference. And so trying to, especially when or if you're out navigating an educational program and if you're doing it while having a family, that's another big part too, is to try to find
Absolutely.
a support system that it has your best intentions.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I could not have said that any better. That is so important, especially from your committee, your supervisors or advisors, I think you guys call them over
Yeah.
there. Really important to have those conversations and get the support that you need in order to carry on through. I had to take multiple maternity breaks during my PhD. You know, things had to be put on pause, you know, while I was off having our sons and then taking a maternity break, which was almost a year for me in each case. So I really needed supportive supervisors and a supportive environment in which to be able to thrive in that. And that was actually a huge part of the reason why I was able to continue my PhD successfully. And of course, my support at home. You know, my husband has been incredible. Like, I could not have done this without him and his support and just everything that he does for us. There's no way I could have done it. And so, you know, we have to give credit where it's due. And I think for me, that support system, my husband, my supervisors, has been everything. I would not have been able to do this without that support.
And yeah, to reiterate, giving a big shout out to those that support. And for those listening, and you might be thinking, oh, I don't have that support system, or I'm not going to be able to find that you are still capable of doing it too. It may be hard
Yes.
and it may be
Yeah.
more challenging because of other factors. But
Yeah.
if you don't have that support system within your family, sometimes
Yeah.
you can find it within friends or find other individuals who may not
Yes.
have a support system that you guys can help one another. And
Absolutely.
use that body doubling and use that motivation to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, did you do this or did you do that? And, let's be accountability partners and you can build your own support system. So I don't want listeners out there to be like, hey,
Absolutely.
I don't have this, family and I can't like
Absolutely.
there are ways that you can find your own support that it may not have been, you may not have been born into the support system because that happens too. Or you may not have
Mm-hmm.
found a partner or a husband or a wife that can support you, but you might be
Yeah.
able to find friends or a colleague or someone else going through the program who is also kind of a lone wolf and you guys can pack up together.
Honestly, like this is actually the reason why I started Scholarly Mamas. So Scholarly Mamas is my community for mamas who are navigating this journey, whether you're partnered or not, right? This is a space for community building. This is a space to support each other. This is a space to have that accountability. Because like you said, not everybody's going to have family support. We are having a whole family life over here in the UK, and most of our families not we don't have any family here. Like,
Mhm.
we have no extended family here. So navigating, maternity, having kids, childcare, all that without that extended family has been incredibly difficult. And I know that there's so many others who are solo parenting or who are navigating motherhood with no extended family support. And that's why, like you said, you have to remember that if you don't have it, build it.
Mm.
Find communities where you can have that support, find spaces that are encouraging and nurturing for you, that you can have that system of support, that solace, that community to really share this experience with, because it's really hard to do this without any support at all.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of the take home message. If you don't have that support at home or in an extended family, create that community for yourself. Go join a community like Scholarly Mamas or others and find and create that for yourself. You really, really do need that support.
And I will make sure that all of Dr. Gibbs' contact information and the ads for Instagram for Mrs. Mummy PhD and Scholarly Mamas will be in the description box below.
Yay.
So go check that out and go join those communities too. And as we kind of transition, as you said, takeaways, we're going to transition to that portion of our conversation. What takeaways do you have for the listeners to aid them as they navigate along their own journeys?
I think really the first thing is to see your PhD journey as a journey of self discovery. So, this is more than just getting a title and getting an accolade. You are learning so much on this journey, but you're not just learning a lot of scientific or academic knowledge, you're also learning a lot about yourself. You're learning to set boundaries, you are learning to advocate for yourself, you're learning how strong you are and how much you can actually tolerate or not. on this journey. You're, growing in motherhood, and for those who are navigating motherhood, parenting, and really, if you see it as a journey of self-discovery, I think that helps you to really appreciate the journey part of it, rather than just focusing on the destination and finishing the degree and graduating, because that's the icing on the cake. That's the cherry on top. But really, I think the real value of doing a PhD is how you grow as a person during this journey. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, at the beginning of my PhD, when I look at myself at the beginning of my PhD and at the end of it, these are two different people. I am not the same person. I experienced so much growth on this journey. And so seeing it as a journey of self discovery is really crucially important. Now, for mamas, there's an extra layer here. And that is the real importance of, saying yes to help, saying yes to support. And, if you don't have that, as we said, you can create it, you can find it, but really not taking this on, not navigating this journey completely alone. It just, it goes back to that analogy of keeping your head down and, not looking up and staying in that darkness. Like, nobody wants that. And a PhD journey is lonely enough by itself. Like, doing it as a mom is 10 times more lonely. So, really hold your head up, really look up, look around you. See, pick up on the things that are, fueling your energy and bringing joy and love and light into your life, and really make space and time for those things is so important. And like I said, saying yes to help, like that's never a bad thing. um and also this idea, I guess, of, I always talk joke with my scholarly mamas about putting down the superwoman cape, right? You don't need to be superwoman, you don't need to do it all, and you certainly don't need to do it all right now. So that's a temptation. Like, so many of us are buried in overwhelm because we're trying to do all the things for all the people all the time, running around like, there's no tomorrow. And really just taking some deep breaths and realizing that the world is not going to stop if your house is not perfectly tidy and clean and spotless. Let go of that perfectionism, that you don't have to be a perfect mom. You don't, and I always say to my mamas as well, you don't have to be perfect to be purposeful. And so navigating this journey with purpose is what actually gets you through, what actually allows you to finish well. And so really focusing on that, prioritizing your well-being, so so important. Those would be my kind of main takeaways.
Those are amazing. And just to emphasize, the last takeaway for sure is that you don't have to be perfect to be purposeful. I want to say that again for everyone out there and shout it for the ones in the back. You don't have to be perfect to be purposeful. That,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember having this conversation with another one of my guests, and that those in academia specifically, especially if you're doing a PhD program, that we tend to be perfectionists, that
Mm-hmm.
can't be submitted if it's not the perfect paper. It can't be completed if it's not the perfect project. That it doesn't deserve your attention if it's not the perfect, internship or whatever the case may be. But that's not reality. That
No.
perfectionism is just a fallacy of the mind, that it doesn't actually exist in the real world. And that is so important to emphasize, that you can have purpose without everything being perfect, that doesn't it
Yes.
doesn't exist. That
Yes,
you can have purpose and not be a perfect person, and that's okay.
that's
Uh,
okay.
ooh, ooh, yes.
I remember listening, no, I remember reading on Threads recently. One of the PhD pages that I follow, I forgot the name now, which is terrible. But basically, they said a finished PhD is never perfect, and a perfect PhD is never finished.
Yes.
And that just resonated for me, because I'm like, yeah, like, if you want to finish well, you
Mhm.
have to accept that you are not going to be perfect at this. You're not going to be perfect at every part of this. This is not going to be a perfect PhD. But it doesn't mean that you cannot navigate this journey with purpose.
Oh, I love this. I think about now how many people who are out there who've written a dissertation or written a paper, and whether you're at the start of your educational journey or if you're writing a paper for work or if you're just writing a paper, just write a paper, that how much your writing evolves over time, that the very first paper you wrote was probably trash, that it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but you still wrote it. It still, for some of you, got published and it was a finished product. But now your writing has evolved, it has grown, it's probably, beautiful and you can charm everyone through your writing. But that first piece of writing and that first paper you wrote was probably trash, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That
this goes back to the idea of journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Like you are growing as a writer, you are growing as an academic, you are developing yourself, your skills. Nobody expects that you are going to start off, with everything together and if that was the case, you wouldn't need a supervisor or advisor, would you? You
no.
just tell them, actually, can I have my PhD, please?
Yeah,
So
and that'd be
actually,
it.
no, that's the reason why you've got support and guidance, because you are learning. You are a student of academia. And even after you finish your PhD, you will continue to learn, you continue to grow, you continue to develop. So this is a journey of lifelong learning that
Mhm.
we are embarking on. So to look at this as just, finishing my PhD, I've done it, I've got the title and that's it, is actually not the purpose of what you are doing. You are here to learn and grow in whatever capacity you're placed, but seeing it as a journey of lifelong learning is really the only way to embrace that personal growth and the journey of self-discovery.
Ah, yes. As we're coming to the end of our conversation, are there any additional thoughts or comments or any epiphanies that kind of came to mind that you want to share with the listeners?
Not that I can think of, but I have really enjoyed being in this conversation. I love connecting with people one on one like this. And when I'm recording these episodes, I never really think about the fact that other people are listening to it.
I know that is the part. But hi, all the listeners out there. Part of our conversation. We are here.
Yeah, they're like flies on the wall listening into our conversation. And I just love that. I really love that. It's been a pleasure being here.
Well, thank you again for being a guest, Dr. Gibbs. And I've loved having you. And yes, I've loved and enjoyed everything that we've brought up in this conversation. And for the listeners out there, I hope you've gained some insights that'll aid you along your journey, whether your journey is in academia or whether it's just in your professional life or your personal life, that hopefully you have some little nuggets and some key takeaways that can aid you along your way. So thank you again, Dr. Gibbs, for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that concludes this episode, and I hope you have enjoyed part 2 of this 2-part segment of a conversation with Dr. Michelle Gibbs. Again, if you have not listened to it already, please be sure to go and check out part 1, which is episode 20. And I hope, again, that you've enjoyed the conversation that I had with Dr. Gibbs, and I hope you were able to take away some key insight that will aid you with navigating along your own journey. Well, I have loved having you tune into this episode, and thank you for being on this journey with me. And if you would love to listen to more Broke PhD podcast episodes, then please check out the website brokephdpodcast.shop to continue to follow along. Please remember, wherever you are in your own journey, I'm wishing you all the best, and remember, you got this. Again, I'm your host, Dr. G, and I hope you have a wonderful day.